So tonight we have two items before us in this work session. The first item is our first quarter budget update, which will also serve, I think, to look into the future as to how we approach next fiscal year. So without any further ado, we get started. The purpose of our work session tonight is to update you on how we ended the last fiscal year, 2007-2008, and how that affects this year's budget and our planning for the future. This evening, we're going to review with you the way we ended the past fiscal year, and we'll update you on the current fiscal year's budget. What you'll see in the next few slides is that we ended the last fiscal year slightly better than we anticipated when we presented the budget to you in May. At the same time, the economic climate has deteriorated significantly since May. And although the state eventually passed its budget in September, the state's structural deficit continues to grow. With economic conditions changing so rapidly, we will provide you with more frequent updates as the financial situation evolves. Our next major update will be at the mid-year review presentation in February. So with that, I'll turn it over to Harriet.
Thank you. The last fiscal year, 2007-2008, is complete. The books have now been closed and audited by the independent accounting firm of Caparici and Larson, and I'm happy to report that we have once again received an unqualified or clean opinion on our financial statements. In the following slides, I'll review with you some of the key points about how we ended 07-08 and what that means for the current year's budget. As you all have heard, I'm sure, in the press, the recession has been declared, and we've now officially been in recession for the past year. In all of my years in local government finance, I have to tell you that I don't know when I have seen as much volatility as we have experienced over the past few months. And you'll see that reflected in this presentation. Locally, many cities in Alameda County have experienced lower property and sales tax revenue than they anticipated. Similar to other cities, Fremont's property tax revenue for fiscal 07-08 was less than anticipated due to an increase in delinquencies countywide. In addition, we have seen downward reassessments of property values countywide, and those will have a longer-term impact on our property tax revenues. Transaction volumes and median sales prices have decreased, resulting in a decrease in our real property transfer tax revenue, and that decrease is likewise continuing this fiscal year. As we reported in May, we continue to experience decreasing sales in construction materials and flattening sales of appliances and home furnishings. With the broader economic decline and tightening of consumer credit, we are now seeing large decreases in auto sales, and we expect to see similar decreases in general retail. The governor has once again declared a fiscal emergency for the state of California, and the state is facing another revenue shortfall projected to be over $14.8 billion in the current year, and possibly growing to as much as $42 billion over the next 18 months. The state's ability to take money from cities, combined with the recession we're in, causes us to be seriously concerned about the future. In closing the books on 07-08, we determined that we took in $400,000 less in revenue and transfers in than we projected when we were last before council in May. However, our expenditures were $1.3 million less than we expected in May, which offset that revenue shortfall and overall gave us a more positive result for last fiscal year than we anticipated. This leaves us with $900,000 more than our year-end projection with which to start the 08-09 fiscal year. The largest difference in our projections were in sales tax collections, and we'll discuss revenues in further detail with the next slide. This slide provides information about all of our general fund revenues. The first column of numbers on the left is our 07-08 year-end revenue estimate that we presented to council in May. The middle column is our actual results for 07-08 now that the books are closed and the numbers have been audited. The final column on the right recaps the $400,000 difference from our May projection. The primary component of our lower revenues was sales tax, which was $300,000 less than our May estimate. Our property tax revenue was about $200,000 less than we expected, and property transfer tax revenue likewise was $200,000 less than we anticipated. The lower sales tax revenue was mainly due to weaknesses in the economy and the decline in consumer spending. The lower property transfer tax revenue was due to tightening of the credit markets, along with the downturn of the housing market as a result of the subprime subprime mortgage crisis. The remainder of the revenue difference is a combination of other smaller revenue sources, which together totaled $600,000 more than we anticipated when the budget was adopted in June. Overall, we thought we would collect, if you look at that very bottom line on the slide, overall we thought we would collect $136 million in revenue. However, we actually collected $135.6 million, $400,000 less than we anticipated in May. So our actual results were were within 0.3% of our overall estimate. This slide brings it all together and shows the difference between how we thought we'd end 07-08 when we last updated council in May and how we actually ended the year when we closed the books. So again, that first column of numbers on the left is our estimate when we were last before council in May. The shaded column in the middle is our actual audited results now, and the left-hand column is the difference. As you can see in that right-hand column, our decreased revenue of $400,000 and expenditure savings of $1.3 million resulted in a net results of operations that was $900,000 better than we anticipated. When we updated you in May, we expected that we would end 07-08 with $2.2 million with which to start the new fiscal year, and that's the row of numbers at the very bottom of that slide labeled ending fund balance. Instead, we actually have a $3.1 million fund balance with which to start 07-08, and as you'll see in the following slides, we will need every bit of that additional money. Our first quarter update also allows us and gives us the opportunity to provide you some brief information about the development services and recreation cost centers. This slide shows the fund balance remaining at the end of 07-08 in each area. The Development Services Cost Center is shown on the left-hand side of the slide with the red bars, and the 07-08 results are shown with a crosshatch shading. The Development Services Cost Center added to its fund balance, ending the year with just under $3 million. The higher balance at the end of 07-08 is primarily the result of increased development project activity in the earlier portions of last fiscal year. In the Recreation Cost Center, which are the blue bars on the left, the Cost Center business model has enabled the Cost Center as a whole to continue to operate a wide variety of programs. The slight increase in its fund balance is a result of the positive results of the recreation program delivery model. So now that we've given you a recap of our results for fiscal 07-08, we'll move on to tell you what last year's results mean for our current year's budget, 08-09.
Before we go on to 08 and 09, on the transfers out, saving, I guess we'll call it a savings because we're in the holiday season. What was that attributable?
The expenditures and transfers out?
Correct. The actuals came out to be less. There was some cost savings. Was that capital projects or was that?
It was primarily salary savings from vacant positions, and a significant amount of that was in the public safety departments because of the vacancies that they have been trying to fill, but it is a challenge to fill police and fire positions.
Okay, thanks.